So gonna jumping into March 2025 market stats that were released yesterday. Can you guys, I hate to say it, but you can see my screen, right?
Yep.
Yes.
With the data. Okay. All right. So this is Monroe County, March 2025. Right now, what we're looking at is compared to February of 2025. So the prior month. Um, First thing to point out would be like, keep in mind, this is business that was done, what, after the holidays, right? January, potentially some in February, but this is the closings for that business that was written in January and February. So this ends up being the data for the start of 2025, right? At this point, most of 2024 is closed out, and this is all like, okay, how was the market in January? How was the market in February from a written and pending standpoint? So, first note would be you've got the new listings number and this huge jump of 75%, right? And new listings versus active inventory, what that is basically all the new listings that came on the market and then all the listings that are still on the market when this data is pulled for the end of the month. So huge jump in listings that are all selling for the most part, right? In the sense that only a 2% jump from last month, meaning there's this pretty consistent level right now of 300 or so listings remain on the market at any given time. And this push of all the new listings that get swooped up, right, with delayed negotiations and bidding war type of stuff. What this tells me is demand is still very strong, right? Because we're getting through these listings, we're cycling through these listings, and essentially this ends up being the part of the month's supply of inventory stat, and you'll see in a minute, but it is very low. And, this is that dynamic to describe it, right? So demand is still strong. However, for, getting through the holidays, getting into the spring market in March with new listings specifically, to see the seasonal jumps that we want to see is a good sign. And we're slightly up, when you consider it, kind of how it just gets absorbed. Closed sales data. Here's what I want you to understand when looking at this type of data. One is that this is pulled today. So closed sales in the MLS today is not necessarily accurate in the entire depiction in the month of March, right? Because as we know, and been guilty of it, but like, things close and then agents close them out in the MLS days later, a week later, whatever. It takes a while for this data to catch up. So to give you a sense of how it plays out, well, when I looked at closed sales in February, last month around the same time in the beginning of the month. At that point, the gap was a minus 17% gap. And looking at the February data right now, it's only minus 9.2%. So there'll be more closed sales data coming on. So this is not entirely accurate, however, a decent kind of depiction of what we're looking at, right? Because we're seeing a jump in closed sales data from the prior month, which is what we want to see as we get out of the holidays now, right? With January written business into February and see that increase as usual. Still 7 days on the market. So again, strong demand, strong sellers market. Pricing up, slightly, but I would call that more seasonality than anything. Okay. This is the year over year. So this is the data compared to March of 2024. This is what we want to look at more so for pricing wise to see if it's up, and we are up 6% for this month compared to last year. So we're, it's not double digit percentages, but we're not like leveling out at, 1 or 2% price increases yet. So we're still, pretty good appreciating market. back to that lag in closed sales data, right? Like this is where it's really felt. Right now it's showing minus 15% of closed sales data from the previous year. But, I gave the example already, but for comparison's sake, at this time last month, in the beginning of the month, it was showing minus 17% and it ended up being minus 9%. So expect that same sort of thing to happen where when we look at March data in April, this will be probably, maybe down 8% or so, I would take a guess at. Maybe more if there's a lot that really hasn't, gone into the MLS yet, but there'll be a catch up to this data. But overall, we're still down compared to last year. So this conversation of are we at the bottom of the market and coming back up, was 2020 to 24 the bottom in terms of transactional sales, right? And that national data of like 4 million homes sold is all-time low. Are we going to start to come up from that? I think it was 4.1 million. Are we going to start to come up from that in 2025 or not? Locally here, at least, not a good start to that. We're still below the transactional data from last year. New listings did jump from the same time as last year, so that's an encouraging sign to help get this market balanced. However, the active inventory that remains on the market is a lot less. So if anything, like we're kind of in this anomaly type of market, as we know, where it's extreme sellers because the lack of inventory, even with it growing, but we still have a good amount of demand, probably because we're an affordable market compared to most. Yeah. Next one. And these are all available to you on your MLS, but this kind of goes over a lot of the same data. But this report shows list to sales price ratio, which we increased from the prior month, and we're at 116% now, but down slightly from the same time last year. So, I mean, I wouldn't look too much into that at all, right? Essentially call it the same type of dynamic last year as this year, proven by this number of how much higher homes are selling above list price. And more competitive in March compared to February, which essentially means more that business that was written in January and February, it's more competitive than it was, say, in December, which I think we can draw an obvious correlation to, right? The other piece of data that's in this report is month supply of inventory. That negative 17% looks like a big number because it's just going from 1.2 to 1. So it's just overall like extreme sellers. Anything when you like balanced market is 4 to 6 months supply of inventory. At least historically speaking, and nationally, right? So different markets have different things, right? And we're just on that extreme sellers market side of it. What may feel like balance for us in our market may end up being like 2.5 to 3.5 type of number versus the typical 4 to 6 number. Like if we get our month supply of inventory to say 2.5, we are gonna be able to feel it. Okay. So just understand that dynamic and overall, how extreme of a market we're in still. Jody, go ahead.
Can we go back up to list price received?
Mm-hmm.
Is it fair to say that a different way to say that is the 16.2% over asking price?
Correct.
Okay, just checking.
Yep. Yep. No, thanks for asking. Yeah. So that's the premium. So when you're so let's shift the conversation into what conversations you can be having now that you have this data, right? What tactics can you implement to convert now that you have this data? And on that piece of list to sales price ratio, I mean, I think it's fairly obvious, but like if you have a buyer who's not willing to be competitive and, that kind of situation where, well, why would I pay above list price? Or I don't want to do that, or I feel that's wrong, or that's not fair. I get it, but like you just have to look at the data of the market. This is how the market is. And if you're, this is harsh, right? So the appropriate way to say it based on the relationship and the personality that's in front of you is important. But bluntly put, if you're not willing to look at reality and understand it, then you're not a true buyer. Because if you're saying I'd be willing to pay up to 100% of the list price, ideally 95%, it's not me trying to strong arm you as an agent. This is the market. The market right now is just the list price is there. And, right now the average premium is 16%. Because keep in mind, that's average taking into account, back to the active inventory data, right? This number includes the 326 listings that haven't sold on fire with a bidding war, right? So average of 16% above list price includes all the duds out there. So what is the true number for like the hot properties? I wish we could get that data. But I want to stay on that point for a minute. Does everybody follow what I'm getting at in terms of how to think of the list to sales price ratio as an average, but nowhere near an indicator of like, that hot property that sold over 100 grand. I mean, property listed for 200, selling for 300 is 50% over the list price. Did I do that math right?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So, and that we know that's happening right now today. But this, using this data to have a conversation like that and understanding it in order to have a conversation like that so that you can get really technical either in your consultations or in your objection handling becomes critical. Because otherwise you're just asking them to, hey, just trust me, take my word for it. And you shouldn't be put in that position professionally. Like it's just unfair for yourself to have to run your business where it's like, just take my word for it. Let's, trust me here, right? No, like show them this. Like legit find like you think I'm kidding? I'm not. Find a way to be able to whip this chart out of your back pocket in a conversation. And you have a phone in your back pocket or your purse or your front pocket. So download this, save it, use it. If you're not, let me challenge you to think this way. If you're not referencing this data multiple times a month directly with clients, not gonna like this, but you're doing it wrong. Okay, so have tools that give you this accessible and immediately and live it. If you're in my world, like you have that tool. There's, we provide that for a reason. It's not because I want to nerd out on data all the time. It's because no, use this. You've got a link. Go to it. Pull it up while you're on the phone with somebody. Show them while you're in person. Send it to them. Because especially when you got other people that want to nerd out, you're now the economist of choice. And that line that's so often used by the big guy Gary, that's what it is. It's not necessarily like I nerd out on this stuff, right? Like I have studied it for a long time at this point. And it doesn't need to be like that, but you need to find a general understanding of this type of stuff. Let's keep talking tactics from it, right? Like the, to buyers that are hesitant to get into the market, hey, We just had a 75% increase in inventory from last month. Sounds dirty. I'm not trying to do anything unethical, but they don't need to, you don't need to lead with but they all sold. But like, hey, there's a 75% inventory increase last month. I know, I know you felt like there wasn't enough out there for you, or, I know you felt like the competition was too fierce, but there's a 75% increase in inventory from last month, and it's up 20% from last year at the same time. Let's get out there. Doesn't make sense to get out there. There's more options coming up for a seller. Hey, we're still extremely hot. 7 days on market on average. You mean what that means is if you don't sell your home in 7 days, you have a problem. So from a listing procurement standpoint, 7 days on market, 116% list to sale price ratio. It's 1 month supply of inventory. Get out there. What are you waiting for? Pricing just went up 8% from last month and 6% from the same time last year. For sellers that aren't willing to kind of be aggressive in order to sell by the norm, let's phrase it that way, right? Hey, the median days on market right now in Monroe County, where you're located, is 7 days. What that tells you is that your home's been on the market for 20 days. That's a problem. The market is telling us that's a problem because most of them sell in 7. Or the good situations sell in 7. So you're already past like a good situation. Do you want to? I don't want you to be in a position where it gets worse. Can we revisit our strategy here? Here's another reason why this data is important. And being the economist of choice is important. And I don't want to get political at all with this, okay? But I think you just have to understand that right now, you got a really great opportunity to go make care calls financially. Not necessarily saying you call somebody up and ask them how their stock portfolio is doing or if they're in financial pain. But if you can get into relationship with people, understand that right now with all that's going on, there's going to be a lot of people that are in pain and that you can find an opportunity to help, even if it's not, to buy or sell a home. I'm not wishing anybody in pain and like, I gotta sell my home. That's not what I'm getting at. Okay. To be clear, but just when you become the resource as a person, that's a good person and has, their home in mind and all that comes with that. And part of their home is their financial well-being. And part of a real estate transaction that you represent them to is their financial well-being. So when you're taking the time to reach out and see what's going on, good or bad with people, right now, when it's a stressful time for people, that's going to go a long way in who's doing that. Now, also understand, I'll flip this on it on the other side of the coin, which is why you got to come from curiosity at all time. There's a lot of people that are going to feel great about what's going on. And that's okay too. And you can play to that too. And you can be the economist of choice to that too, to where, yeah, buy that dip. Now's the time to get in the market. And that's awesome that you're doing well. And sounds like you've got a real wealth building focus. What do you do with real estate for your portfolio? It's a huge opportunity to take advantage of, and a huge, we look for these tactics of how am I going to call somebody? Again, I'm not saying, hey, call people up and how's your financial well-being, but get in the conversation with people. Have a question, just like, yeah, crazy out there, huh? Feel them out, see what that gives you. Find out what position they have. And if you can feel any pain from somebody, offer to help. Have the resources in your organization chart to be able to help. Have the financial advisor and the accountant and the, whatever financial resource type team that you can gather to truly help people, or, just resources in general to assist them with. Like, I know Premium has a budgeting PDF template, spreadsheet type thing. Do you have that? Are you willing to send it to people like, hey, look at here's, this is what I've done. Me and my family have done, and it really helped us. And we really found a way to cut some expenses and live on a budget and plan for our future. This tool just got me started with it. And if you want, I can send it to you. And if this is kind of weird, but I'll throw it out there if you want. I'm happy to be kind of an accountability partner to this because I'm on this journey as well. So the more of us that are together in it, the better. So I'll check in with you in a month to see how you're doing with saving for that down payment that you don't have right now. You see the difference between like sitting through this and data, blah, 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 and taking it in and, at whatever level you understand it and doing nothing with it and then being able to take it into real life. And then the difference between, what you're doing to produce business and, hey, how about this weather? How's Johnny? Good. Talk to you later. But don't get me wrong, like at minimum, yeah, I'm all for it because that's better than nothing. But the difference between that interaction and, hey, I know things are crazy right now. Checking to see how you been. Let's talk about it. Sorry to hear that. I'd love to be able to help. This is how I can help. It's a huge opportunity to be able to use this data for your own life too. Because I don't have the quote at hand, but I can tell you that historically speaking, the transfer of wealth that happens in down markets is significant. So if you're thinking that way, and you have plenty of time to take advantage of this, it's not like, stock market tanked yesterday and it's too late because I don't have anything saved up. Like, you have time to take advantage of this. So if you think at that level, what you focus on expands, right? All I got, guys. Time is yours. Sorry, I didn't get to. I can look at some houses if you want. I know I promised that. If you got anything you want to know if it's hot or not.
Are we still recording?
No.
Okay.
Talk to me.
I think these are really scary numbers if you have buyers below 250. I think these are scary numbers if your buyer thinks their budget is really great at 250. I think we're going to be doing a lot of emotional support right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only way we're going to win our people over is to constantly support them through this low, short inventory and make people who have honestly worked really hard to get a mortgage for 175 and they're so proud. And then you have to tell them there is nothing where you want to be. That's the key, right? In the location you want to be, there's really nothing. So every single day you have to watch to see if something's, had a price decrease, if something's went past delayed. I'm probably in the MLS 3 times a day, just trying to see if I could jump on something for my buyers that haven't had a chance in hell yet to do anything. And it's really nothing more than they just don't have enough money to compete with other people. Good credit, good pre-qual, solid lenders, no inspections, doing everything right.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't disagree.
I
I
feel
think-
like I need to start drinking right now at 9 a.m. when you hang off this call because I am taking, and this is, I think we all are going to experience this. One
Oh,
of my
yeah.
kids' friends has come to me. They are pre-qualified. They're doing, they do have a big, they're getting closing funds, but the house they want to see is 174.9 and their budget is 175, and it'll be the first time she's going to tour a home as if to buy it. And I have to have this heartbreaking conversation with her. It's
Yeah.
not like it's just somebody I met. I mean, this is a girl I've watched grow up, right? Now she's a mom and I'm like, oh Lord.
Are
I
you
get
gonna,
it.
are you gonna
I
take
get
her
it.
to, are you gonna take her to that house though, Shannon? Cause I always feel like anytime that I take them to something that's maxed out in their price range first, it always has a negative effect.
She has begged me to take her in there, so I am. But
Okay,
I am also, maybe this is the benefit of when you do know somebody, I am able to talk to her a little bit different. So, not a little bit different. I'll treat her like every other client, but she just knows my tones. Like she's known me forever. Right. So, she even said it. She goes, I know it's going to go way over, but I want to look at it. I want to look at it for style. I want to see if there's another house I can get, if I can do these kind of things eventually. So this is like, I'm going to have to do this once or twice. And sometimes with buyers, they don't get it either. Like they just don't get it. They keep losing, keep writing inspection, for example, keep going in at the top of their budget. It's like the 10th time they do it, then they finally see, oh, okay, well, now I have to shop at like 100 if I want to compete at 175 or whatever.
yeah, I
Yeah,
had,
listen, I mean, I mean, you know this, you're not gonna get an answer from me that you like. But it's the reality of, it's your obligation to them and more equal importance to yourself, right? It's your obligation to consult at a high level so that you're leaving that consultation where they have absolute clarity and you do as well in terms of where they stand, and there's a plan that you're taking from here. You have the obligation to, look at your pipeline in this manner to where, like, you know, not every buyer is an A right now, even if they're pre-qualified and, willing to compete, willing to waive an inspection on a price point for a house that they want that they can't get. So
I'm
you
a ha-
have to run your business with tools that are formal, that you have standards to, in order to max it out, in order to be effective, frankly, at this point in the market. The other thing I'll comment on is, like, yeah, I mean, at this point, let's just say, I don't know, this is obviously arbitrary type number, but at this point, I don't know, 98% of the work that you're going to do day in and day out is pro bono. And maybe prior to a market like this, it's 95%. Just understand that I know you get that, but that's the business, right? If you're effective at, like, just understanding that the overwhelming majority of work that you're going to put in isn't going to get you paid directly, but ultimately it does, and embrace that, you'll do well. Gotta run, guys. Hop on Anthony's mastermind. I appreciate y'all. Sorry to take a 2-week break, but we'll be better than ever mid-April when I get back. Love ya.